So warm welcome to everyone. Wonderful, wonderful to be together with you today. This is the Buddhist Global Relief annual event, and we have been doing this program for many years. And so for folks who have been for many years, welcome back. And for folks who are new, also a warm welcome to you. So I'll go ahead and begin just with a bit of introduction, which is that you've made it here and you're on Zoom. And nonetheless, if you have any kinds of technical or support needs, you can check in with Yvonne. You see there is a person, a participant here whose name says, there she goes, she's waving at us. Yvonne BGR volunteer. She is our trusty, wonderful support, and she can respond to any kind of needs that you have there for tech. And so yes, so this is 2023, and we are getting together, and our theme this year is creating a world that works for everyone. And so we gather together in the spirit of the Buddhist teachings that are so heartwarming, that are really pointing us to the reality that the choices that each one of us makes is what is creating a world that can work for everyone. So what each person does matters, and the actions that we take, the words that we say, even the things that we think make a difference. They make an impact in the world. So much of our role here at Buddhist Global Relief is to bring people together, just like we're doing today, and bringing folks together who are our partners. You're going to hear from some of the organizations, the folks who are with the organizations that are our partners in various parts of the world, and the folks that they serve and that they lift up, and you, all of you, and many other people who support Buddhist Global Relief, so that we can really try to relieve some of the burden of folks who live with the burden of poverty, who live with the burden of hunger, who live with the burden of a lack of education or resources. And so in that way, by bringing everybody together, we can, each of us can feel the impacts of our compassion and our care and our support. And you can see the effects of that in yourself and in the world. So as I was saying to Kim Behan, she's our executive director, and she's here today as well, these times of getting together each year, these are always uplifting opportunities to talk about so much good happening. So with that, I want to also just say a little bit about how our time together is going to go. So in just a moment, I'm going to introduce Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi, our chairman, and then we'll have a brief presentation by Patty Price about Buddhist Global Relief's mission and financials. And then we'll have a variety of presentations from some of our partners and Dharma teachers who are here, esteemed Dharma teachers. And our partners also in organizing as well, partners in Germany. And then we'll have more Dharma talks, and finally closing with a reflection. And so we'll end our program about 2 hours from now. So believe me that time will go quickly, because as I said, there are some wonderful presentations and wonderful teachings that will be happening. And in particular, we're also going to hear from George Clapp about how to support BGR financially, because that is really one of the main reasons why we also invite you here to bring together the supports that we need in order to do this work. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi. He is, I would say, one of the most well-known Dhamma teachers in the US and perhaps in the world, but nonetheless, I'm going to say a few things about him in any case. So Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi is an American monk, and he earned his PhD in philosophy from Claremont Graduate School. And after completing his university studies, he traveled to Sri Lanka, where he received his novice ordination in 1972 and full ordination in 1973 with the Venerable Balangoda Ananda Maitreya. And he was also editor of the Buddhist Publication Society in Kandy, Sri Lanka, for a number of years, quite a number of years, and also lived and practiced with Venerable Nyanaponika Thera at Forest Hermitage there. And he returned to the US in 2002. He lives and teaches. We're thankful that he lives and teaches in Chuan Yen Monastery in upstate New York. And he has a number of publications, too many publications to list here. But just to name a couple, the middle-length discourses of the Buddha, the connected discourses of the Buddha, and the numerical discourses of the Buddha. So in 2008, together with a number of his students, Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi founded Buddhist Global Relief, and he is our current chairman. And Venerable, please share some wisdom with us.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me okay? Okay, so thank you, Aya, for that introduction, and I welcome everybody for joining us today. And I'm very glad you can all participate in this event. This is our annual, we call this our annual outreach event, which began in the year 2010 when we held walks to feed the hungry. Walks that started one walk in New Jersey, then it spread around the US up until the time of the COVID pandemic, we were holding about 10 walks every year. Once the pandemic started, we had to hold our outreach events online, and we've been continuing in that mode since then. I want to speak a little bit about the theme of this gathering. So the theme is creating a world that works for everyone. And I think this theme expresses what I would call the collective moral voice of humanity. It's a voice that holds that all human beings everywhere are entitled to the things they need to live with dignity and to realize their fullest potentials. This moral ideal was set forth in 1948 in the UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which held, among other things, that everyone has the right to an adequate standard of living, including sufficient food, clothing, housing, and medical care, and that everyone has the right to an education, at least through primary school. 70 years later, those ideals were still not realized, and so the United Nations formulated the Sustainable Development Goals, which include an end to poverty and zero hunger and gender equality. And yet today, 700 million people still live in extreme poverty. Today, over 800 million people suffer from chronic hunger, and 2.5 billion people face food insecurity and poor nutrition. Today, girls and women, maybe in many countries, their status has improved, but they still face discrimination and oppression in many societies, still subject to violence and to denial of their basic right of self-determination. And economically, we see vast inequalities of wealth, power, and privilege all across the world. And so this contradiction presents us as practitioners of the Buddha Dhamma with the challenge: what can we do to help create a world that works for everyone? We aspire towards a world where the human rights that belong to us by virtue of our humanity are not just words in a declaration, but the underlying foundation of our common life on this planet. We yearn for a world where everyone has a safe environment, sufficient food, a decent education, and meaningful work. But we are far from this ideal, and sometimes it seems that we're actually going backwards, moving further and further away from that horizon. And so the question that we face is there anything that we can do, whether individually or in community, to reverse the situation? Even though it might be impossible for us to perfectly fulfill the ideal of a world that works for everyone, is there anything that we can do to at least promote its realization? Ultimately, success depends upon us as individuals and as groups. And so we face the question, what are the qualities of character that we need to motivate us to action? What are the ideals that we should seek to realize? And how specifically and practically can we actualize those ideals? How can we translate them into realities on the ground so that we can effectively uplift the lives of others and take a few steps, even small steps, towards creating a world that works for everyone? These are some of the questions that I hope we'll be exploring in this program today, and we'll also be highlighting projects that BGR has been supporting through the years with our partners, projects that are intended to move us in the direction of a more just, more benevolent, and more equal world. And in order to introduce you to the actual work of Buddhist Global Relief, I want to introduce our Deputy Director, Patty Price, who will give you an insight into the work of BGR. Patty began her work in the field of humanitarian service, working for the Bureau of Women's Affairs in Jamaica. In 1997, she joined the care team for the United States Northeast region, and she worked for CARE for 11 years, first as the director of planned giving, and then later as the deputy director for CARE in the Northeast region. And in this capacity, she visited dozens of care projects in the Caribbean, South America, and Africa. When the South Asian tsunami hit Sri Lanka in 2004, I organized a donation for aid to Sri Lanka through my personal supporters and reached out to CARE as a recipient of the donation. And the person who became my contact at CARE was none other than Patty Price. And so we had some correspondence, and she came to visit me just at the time when we started the initial discussion to form Buddhist Global Relief. And so I invited Patty to attend our first BGR meeting. She came and she liked what she saw. And then I invited her to serve on the board of directors, which she did. And she served as the chair of the projects committee on the board for 13 years. Then last year, she joined the executive team, and now she works as the deputy director alongside our executive director, Kim Behan. And so now I will turn the mic over to Patty to speak about the work of BGR.
Thank you, Bhante, for that introduction. Am I muted?
No,
No, okay. Just wanted to make sure. So welcome, everybody. It's really my honor to share some operational information and examples of our humanitarian work made possible by you and other BGR supporters and friends. Kim, do you have the slides up? We're waiting for the single slide. Thank you. So creating a world that works for everyone. Bhante has explained exactly what our goal is with that. It's a big goal, but we're going to keep at it. So while global hunger remains a huge challenge, and these figures put that right in front of us, there's no ignoring the level of hunger in the world. The bottom part, I do think, is important to share that since 1990, global hunger has in fact been reduced by 34%. So we've a long way to go, but the trajectory has been moving, if not slowly, in the correct direction. I invite you to read this to yourselves. Generosity is the core of how we operate. Without your generosity and support, Buddhist Global Relief would not have come into existence. So the core of our mission really is to address food insecurity, basic education with an emphasis on girls' education, and skills training for women that includes both increased food security through specialized training, providing tools and seeds for home and or community gardens, and or some marketable skills training for income generation. And here are examples of each of those areas of our work. Our partner organizations are all registered, well-established global, regional, or local groups. Here's some of the kids at one of our Haiti-supported projects. This map is kind of cool because it's where all of our partner organizations are registered. They are well-established global, regional, and local organizations. 3 years ago, I want one more comment about that previous slide is that I'm sorry, that back when we first issued our very first grants, there would have been only 3 red dots on the map. So this is another example of our growth. Thanks. I'd like to introduce some of our partners. The first one will be Bodhi Foundation, founded by Australian Buddhist nun Aya Yeshi. Before she created a girls' home in India, and it has grown significantly. Before COVID hit, Aya came to the US and she met with us at a BGR board meeting. And while she cannot be here today, she has prepared a video, which we're going to share a little later in the program. The Shraddha Charity Organization is in Sri Lanka, which of course is near and dear to Bhante's heart. We support a number of projects in Sri Lanka, including the Pure Water for All and food scholarships that we've provided there since 2022. Action Against Hunger, you're going to learn more about today as we have one of their representatives with us. They provide food to poor children in Tanzania and recently received one of our emergency grants to help with their work in Somalia. So we'll be hearing from Tyler a little bit in the program. One of our BGR associates had the opportunity, while visiting other family in Southeast Asia, to visit the Dhammajarani Wattaya school. That is where we've been providing meals for underserved students for the last few years. The good thing that is coming out of this particular school is that 90% of the girls attending this school have graduated and gone on to university, which is pretty amazing. We've provided emergency food support for many countries this past year through many reputable organizations. Better Burma received one of our grants to assist with the Myanmar refugees, and we'll be hearing from Joe McGee later in the program about that program. Worldwide in 2022 to 23, we've seen significant humanitarian disasters, which certainly caused us to have to dig deeper and increase the amount of support that we were able to provide. So this slide shows BGR's contributions to global emergency and relief efforts just in the past year. The number of direct beneficiaries of 129,000 and their family members who also benefited from our investments brings the total to over 430,000 individuals. Emergency relief funding from just this last July through June 30th, this recent June 30th, we have provided emergency relief to 17 organizations doing work in 12 countries with 24 emergency grants, totaling $840,564 in emergency relief. This is way above what we would have done and been able to do in previous years. However, many of our donors made significant contributions directed towards specifically directed to some of the greatest emergencies that have occurred in the past year. Contributed support. This is a fun slide for us to see the amount of support we received in our first year on creating the organization and launching this program, and how the trajectory came along gently over the years. And then probably because of the increase in significant emergencies, and the amount of support to BGR went up drastically this last year. And for that, we are forever grateful. We've been able to help that many more people. Supported programs, annual supported programs, beginning to present. So in the very beginning, we supported a few programs with a grants totaling $34,000 US dollars. And then you can see the trajectory up over the years to the point that our donors, supporters in the last year gave over $2 million to BGR. Our cumulative income to date, grant donations, $9.4 million. Here's our expenses by category. I think that we're very proud of this because our administrative costs are only 3%, fundraising costs 5%, and 92% of our donations to BGR go directly to programs and emergency relief. That totaled $2,088,000 in the past year going to emergencies. Our core values are similar to the core values of any good internet nonprofit organization, but compassion, by far, compassion comes first. Without compassion, we wouldn't have come into existence, and without compassion on the part of all of you, we would not be able to have the impact we do. So thank you again for that. And I just thought the glowing faces of these kids who formerly were hungry and malnourished, it's a great example of the success of your investment in BGR. Thank you all.
Thank you, Patty. A wonderful presentation, really showing the growth over time of people's support for the organization and how we turn that into support for more and more individuals around the world. And yes, these smiling faces, wonderful.
Yep.
Wonderful. So now we're going to have a video presentation by Aya Yeshe. And before that, I'd like to just say a few words about her. Aya Yeshe has been a Buddhist monastic for 22 years. And during that time, she spent about 17 years on and off in India, where she founded the grassroots organization, Bodhicitta Foundation. She's going to say some words about that foundation to us in the video. I is also abbess of Bodhicitta Dakini Buddhist Monastery in Tasmania. She teaches internationally and is a published author and is a sacred chants artist on the album Dakini. So we can go ahead and play the video, if you will. Kim, are you ready for the video?
Yes, I am bringing up the video now.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Aya Yeshe. It's a great honor to be speaking at the BGR annual fundraising event. I'm the director of Bodhicitta Foundation. Our Girls' Home directly receives support from BGR. It supports our Girls' Home, and there are 30 girls from remote areas of India who are struggling to get an education. Some of the girls in our Girls' Home were crushing rocks on the side of the road, or sold by their parents for money, or in brothels, or victims of human trafficking. Some of them are just from really poor families. The caste system is still a really big factor in limiting people's upward mobility, and it makes people face discrimination. Patriarchy is still a very big reality in many parts of the world, including developed countries, and that is no exception in India. Sometimes girls are referred to as a thief at the table because they will take the family's resources to another family that they marry into. Therefore, if a family can only support one member, they'll support the member of the family who will stay in the family, which is usually the son. And sometimes this is just a survival strategy. It's not that they don't love their daughters. I decided to start a charity when I was in Bodh Gaya, and I saw where the Buddha got enlightened, and I saw the tremendous difference between the rich and the poor. You know, there were these marble-lined, air-conditioned retreat centers with a big 6-foot-high barbed wire fence and a man with a gun out the front, and then there's the way the local Indians are living, the descendants of the Buddha, which is in terrible poverty. There is one girl married every 7 seconds. And child marriage prevents a girl from reaching her human potential, developing her own identity, and it perpetuates a cycle of poverty, because if a girl in a developing country doesn't have a proper education, she's always going to be doing jobs that are dangerous, that don't respect her capacity, and you know, she's going to find it hard to pay for the costs of the family. So even in terms of caring for the planet, you know, educating a girl is one of the things we can do to break the cycle of poverty. She increased the leadership of women. An educated mother is 2 times more likely to send her kids to school, and those child are 50% more likely to survive until they're 5. These women will marry later and they'll have less children, and girls with 8 years of school are 4 times less likely to be married young. And every year a girl spends in school can increase her chance to earn more money and have a more dignified life. The consequences of child marriage are, you know, that a girl's freedom is curtailed, as is her development. She's isolated. She's not physically or emotionally ready for the responsibility of becoming a mother or to be someone's partner. She's vulnerable to HIV, and it affects her mental health. And, you know, in the developing world outside China, 1 in 3 women who are below 30 was married before 18. That's 39,000 a day. 71% of human trafficking victims are female, and 64 million girls are forced into child labor. 23 girls below 18 are married every minute, and 650 women alive today were married below 18. So if you want to address poverty, you have to understand that oppression is gendered, poverty is gendered, or gender is a factor, not to say that there are a lot of men who also don't deserve help, and boys, but you know, oppression and poverty is directly tied to gender. So that's why we have 4 schools in different slum areas, as well as a girls' home. That's why we sponsor 55 children per school, predominantly females. That's why we have a women's job training center, because if you educate women, if you train women in jobs, they put 90% of their wages into their family, medicine, and education. If you give a man in a developing country, this is based on surveying thousands of people from the book, Half the Sky. If you give a man a wage increase, only 60% of his wage goes into the family. So giving women jobs, especially jobs that they can do while they mind their children, is really important for agency, for reducing poverty, for empowering women. All of these things, education, you know, giving women a voice, giving women human rights, reducing population, giving people who are alive a better life. It's all connected, and it makes life better for everyone. Also, we have counseling, and we offer a temporary ordination. We offer retreats because life in poor slums is stressful, and people appreciate being able to find some peace and, you know, have some skills to deal with conflict, because conflict inevitably arises. The people we work with were previously known as untouchables, and converted to Buddhism in the 50s to escape the Hindu caste system that had oppressed them. And now the term for those people is Dalit, or people of scheduled caste. They're some of the most poor and oppressed Buddhists in the world, but they're extremely optimistic and ready to, you know, advocate for their human rights and work hard to become liberated from poverty. And their life is slowly improving. I'm very concerned about what will happen to India as the planet warms. But, you know, this is a thing we don't necessarily have answers for. So the work of Buddhist Global Relief is changing lives in India. It's literally saving the lives of children. We make 7,000 meals per year for undernourished kids. And there's a lot of other small things we do, like human rights awareness, educating women about their legal rights and so forth. But this is the work that you have made possible. So thank you for changing lives and making a difference.
Yes, wonderful. Aya's not with us, but I want to thank her for this teaching that really calls forth the impacts on women of these situations in their lives. I think for many of us, it's hard to imagine what such impacts would be like. And so calling them out very specifically is, I think, helpful and incredible to hear that she says that in light of all this, people are still optimistic and willing to move forward in their lives. And that's wonderful that we can help with that. And so I'd like to go ahead and move on to our next presentation. And our next presenter is Rick Hansen. Rick Hansen is a Dhamma teacher who's with us here today. Thank you, Rick, and warm welcome. Your first visit here at the Buddhist Global Relief annual event. And I just want to say a few words about you, if you don't mind, and then I'll hand it off so that you can share with us. But Rick Hansen is a psychologist and a senior fellow at UC Berkeley's Greater Good Science Center and founder of the Global Compassion Coalition. He began meditating in 1974, practicing mainly in the Theravadan tradition, and is taught at many meditation centers. His 7 books have been published in 31 languages, with over 1 million copies in English alone. And he loves the wilderness and taking a break from emails. So it says here, Dr. Hansen is also in the process of establishing a global hub of compassion-related resources, along with a related large coalition that together will help drive long overdue systemic change. So all of our support for that. And again, a warm welcome. And please share your wisdom with us, Rick.
Well, I mean, first of all, extremely touched by let's see here. I want to make sure I don't echo too much. I've just been extremely touched by the previous presentations and the opportunity to be here with you all. The Dhamma touched my heart in 1974, and especially over the last 30 years, it's been really illuminated by Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi's writings and translations. And he's been, for me, a unique voice, actually, on the global stage, a very powerful voice for the implementation of the Buddha's vision of a world that works really for everyone, all invited to a path that is good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end. So in the spirit of that, I've been reflecting about what it means to have a world that works for everyone. And the remarkable fact that it biologically, in our human species that's been walking this earth for 300,000 years, with tool manufacturing hominid ancestors for another several million years before that, during the time that our species walked this earth, until the advent of agriculture 10,000 years ago, for 97% of the time, inside the band worked for everyone. The band was grounded in the biologically evolved approach to care and to share, compassion and justice at the foundation of the social life of our species. For 97% of the time, we've walked this earth. Distinct from other primates whose social organization is grounded in what's called holding and controlling, alpha dominance, holding on to food, controlling reproductive access. And that strategy was implemented somewhat between human bands, but inside the band, to care and to share was foundational. And it's quite remarkable. I was thinking also of Sparrow Rock Meditation Center as sort of my home center. And there's a gratitude hut there, and the words of different great teachers. Kalu Rinpoche is shown there, and one of teaching he gave was that we live in delusion, but there is a reality we do not see. He was speaking, of course, at the foundations of reality. But I'd like to say here that in many ways we take for granted the way we live today, which looks a lot like Game of Thrones, if you know that reference to, just a very brutal, hierarchical, patriarchal, possessive, elitist social structure. That social structure in which the great majority of people on the earth live is a complete aberration from our fundamental nature. We're vulnerable because when agriculture enabled large surpluses and concentrations of wealth and power, and the reestablishing of that strategy of alpha dominance, holding and controlling, that's the way of life for the last 10,000 years for most beings. And we're vulnerable to the movement into that way through the sense of othering, through fear, and through a sense of competitiveness, self-centeredness. And the path out, of course, is to increase the sense of us, all one band, to increase the sense of inner strength, which the Buddha, of course, taught factors of, a sense of inner strength, and not being intimidated by threats that lead us, because of the brain's negativity bias, to overestimate threats. When we lose our compassion, and last, to be able to cooperate with each other rather than compete with each other. So increasing the sense of us, decreasing the sense of fearful preoccupations that are overestimates, that authoritarians of various kinds want to delude us and trick us into and intimidate us into, and increasing the sense of cooperation. That's fundamental to making a world that works for everyone, that takes into account our biology. And then how to scale it. And that's where I'm incredibly inspired by the slides I've seen about Buddhist global relief, because it's when individuals and organizations cooperate and form coalitions of different kinds, alliances, groups, and so forth, that they start having enough resources and enough power, frankly, enough money, enough people, enough clout to actually compete with the entrenched forces of wealth and power that have run the world for the sake of the few at the cost of the many for 10,000 years. And I think about just the observation, because I have something of a business background too, that in the marketplace, businesses compete with each other, but at the political level, they put their money in a single bucket. They cooperate intensely with each other. Unfortunately, I think many, maybe most pro-social organizations do the opposite. They do wonderful work at their individual level, and they're friendly with each other, but there are not many examples of effective coalitions forming of pro-social organizations at a scale that can actually challenge the systemic causes of large-scale suffering. When we do see examples of that, though, we see examples within Buddhist global relief, and we see examples, I'm sure, of larger coalitions forming, then really, really big and important things can be done. And that's the genesis of the notion of the Global Compassion Coalition, to form a coalition, a new global commons in which good-hearted people and individuals can really come together at the scale of the one single human band, much as our ancestors did so well. And the native and indigenous people in the world today keep teaching us, including through their lived example. We can come together at a scale that's big enough to actually take on the deep challenges, such as the ones we saw on the slide earlier, of the fact that, in ways that to me are personally just appalling, about 10,000 children a day die of hunger-related causes. Wow. So to conclude, I just want to put my personal oomph behind what Buddhist Global Relief is doing. It's a deep personal honor to be able to participate, to donate myself. Money is needed, and I think people putting, their walk where their talk is really important in the world today, and looking for ways continually to move beyond our local pro-social efforts to form collective action at a scale that can make a big and lasting difference. I think about to make the world a better place, we have the importance of increasing individual consciousness and individual action. You know, that's mainly, I think, the scale in which the Buddha initially focused in his time. Beautiful and foundational, absolutely important. More and more, there's a focusing on collective consciousness. Really good. Raising values around the world. We also need collective action. Action. Not just statements of concern, not just manifestos, collective action. Resourced by coming together at a large scale and looking for systems and vehicles such as the Global Compassion Coalition that enable that. So I was incredibly touched when Bhikkhu Bodhi expressed interest in the coalition, and extremely touched when BGR joined it. And I just want to say here that to finish, as that beautiful teaching, Itu Vitaka, was posted, something I've thought about a lot, you know, how can we hold on, you know, to what we have when others are hungry? I mean, there's nothing more fundamental. Compassion is rooted in the caring system biologically of a mother feeding her child, her only child. And so too, should we have compassion for all beings, omitting none. And the spirit of that is right at the heart of Buddhist global relief, and it's such an honor to be able to support it. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Rick. I really appreciate that, bringing the big picture and the long time scale into view so that we can really place ourselves within human history and human aspiration as a whole. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and take heart in our nature.
Wonderful. Thank you for your sharing. So I'd like to pause for a moment here and turn it over to George Clapp. George is a board member of BGR. He's also part of our IT team. And I want to just give George an opportunity to say a few words about how to support. George, I think you're still muted, George.
Can you hear me now?
Great.
Yes?
We can hear
Okay,
you now.
great. Thank you, Aya, and thank you to everyone joining us today for the celebration of the wonderful work made possible by people like you, our donors and supporters. We hope that you will be moved and have been moved by the inspiring presentations and by the stories of the few people, of the few stories that we were able to present today of those who benefit from BGR support. Please make a gift today to help BGR continue to change lives by providing nutrition, education, vocational training for right livelihood, and for sustainable and climate resilient agriculture. A link to our donate page will appear in the Zoom chat window. Thank you very much.
Yes. So the link is there. Thank you so much, George, for reminding us of how to move forward with actually enacting our compassionate feelings toward folks who need our support. So we're going to have also a video presentation now from another one of our partners. This is Shraddha Charities, and I'll just say a few words about them before we see the video. Shraddha Charity Organization has been a BGR partner since 2020, when we began our partnership with them, funding a project assisting pregnant women in need throughout Sri Lanka, working primarily out of Mahamewana Buddhist monastery. I apologize about the word. In Kudawela, Sri Lanka, Shraddha provides clean water, education, and aid for sick people, victims of emergencies and natural disasters, and other people in need in Sri Lanka. BGR-supported projects fund education for primary school students in need and provide clean water to rice farmers in Sri Lanka whose health is seriously, if not lethally, imperiled by water contaminated by agrochemicals. So this next video is introducing our project with them at the Hewagama Model Primary School, where BGR funding provides much needed nutritious food to more than 100 first through fifth graders. And the video is hosted by Prasad Binurara, the Chief Executive Officer of Shraddha Media Network and the Shraddha Charity Organization.
Namo Buddhaya. I'm Prasad Binura, Chief Executive Officer of Shraddha Media Network and Shraddha Charity Organization. Today we have gathered to Hewagama Primary School in Kaduwela on the outskirts of Colombo. Today we came to celebrate the inauguration ceremony of Food Scholarship sponsored by Buddhist Global Relief in the United States of America. We were honored by the presence of Theros of Mahamuna Meditation Center who graced this occasion and invoked blessings of Noble Triple Gem, Venerable Aludenis Bodhi Thero, the advisor of Shraddha Media Network and Shraddha Charity Organization, despite not being present today, gave his blessings and advised us to carry out this program properly, and on the other hand, to conduct fortnight Dhamma sermons to these children in order to bring up their mental well-being. Based on the success of the previous program, BGR allowed us $24,000 to carry out 2 more water projects and 1 food scholarship program. Today, we came to launch the food sponsorship program from Kaduwela. The children of this school belongs to the lowest strata of the socio-economic classification of Sri Lanka because most of their parents are underemployed or they don't have any employment to meet their both ends in daily manner. So we have decided to give our helping hand with the generous support of BGR to these innocent school children. Thank you very much for your kind generosity. Actually, it means a lot to Sri Lanka and these innocent children because this is not only for these children but also for their parents as well. When they know that their children are going to get a nutritious food meal daily basis, they can put aside that burden of their children's nutrition. On the other hand, children also will come to school daily basis because they know that they are going to get a very well balanced nutritious plate of meal. This is not possible if not for your generous support. As Shraddha Charity Organization, we diligently monitor the standards and quality of the meal provided with the help of Public Health Inspector of the area. On this auspicious day, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to Buddhist Global Relief and its all stakeholders and donor community to make this event a success. If not for your generosity, this wouldn't have been a reality. Thank you very much. May you all be well and happy. Namo Buddhaya.
Lovely. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's wonderful to see all the smiling faces and really see how much those kids are benefiting from their education and being able to have enough nutrition to really study well and learn at school. So thank you so much to Shraddha for sharing this information with us. And now I would like to introduce our next presenter. Our next presenter is here with us in person, Raimund Hopf with Mitgefühl in Aktion. Raimund Hopf is a Buddhist teacher in the Sutanta community in Germany. He studied Buddhism in India and was a Theravada monk in Thailand for 4 years. He is founder and chairman of Mitgefühl in Aktion, MIA, as we like to call her, in Germany, our European sister organization of BGR, and which was founded in 2019 with Bhante Bodhi as the patron. So Raymond, welcome, and please share with us about your activities there in Europe.
Thank you, Arya Damadipa. I'm very glad to be with all of you today here. And I would like to talk a little bit about our work. Mitgefühl in Aktion, that's a German, that is an English compassion in action is actually a slogan we took from the Buddhist Global Relief. And we began to organize ourselves in 2019 from a very small group of Buddhists, with the inspiration and help of Bhante Bodhi and Buddhist Global Relief. And now I want to share a website as I talk about our projects. Yeah. So since 2020, MIA has been supporting projects together with Buddhist Global Relief in Myanmar, Cambodia, Mongolia, India, Bangladesh, and now even Peru, and previously also in Afghanistan, Senegal, and Cameroon. In addition, we sent emergency aid to crisis regions 3 times. In 2021, we supported suffering Dalit families in India during the COVID crisis. And in 2022, when war broke out in Ukraine, we supported refugees from that country. And this year, we were sending emergency aid to internally displaced people in Myanmar through Better Burma. For detailed information, please just take a look on our English pages on our website, which I'm gonna share with you now. Just a moment. Must have to finish this. Exactly. Yes, and now I would like, one more information. We are only in our 4th year and have just started helping, but we look forward to helping more in the future. Quite impressed by the growth of Buddhist Global Relief. We hopefully, with other European partners in the future, and along with our main partner, Buddhist Global Relief, will really be of great help. And basically, Buddhist Global Relief has been our main inspiration to start that work, which we are very grateful for. It's an honor actually to join you. Our dream is that the world one day will see more Buddhist compassion in action in places around the world where there's hunger and suffering. And now I would like to share another short story with you, and I share a picture again. Yes. Once the Buddha was walking with his attendant Ananda and met a monk who was sick with dysentery and lying in his feces. And he asked him, "Monk, why does no one help you?" And that monk replied, "Venerable, I did not help the other monks and now they are not helping me." Then the Buddha instructed Ananda to fetch water for washing, and the Buddha himself lifted the monk by his legs while Ananda washed him. And then they dressed him in new robes, put him in a bed, gave him food and medicine. And after that, the Buddha called the monks together and said, "Monks, you have no mother and no father. If you do not help each other, no one is gonna help you. You should take care of the needy." And so this is my finishing, dear friends. There are so many people in need out there. They may still have mother and father, but they may not have help to carry on. And if we don't take care of them, maybe no one will. So let us actively turn compassion into works of humanitarian aid. And please help Buddhist Global Relief as well as us and other organizations to help others. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raymond. Yes, it's so true. It's wonderful to see that, just as Rick was mentioning, actually, right? Collaboration, among our organizations really just helps with the growth and helps us touch more and more people and bring more and more resources to bear in the places where they're needed. So this is wonderful. Our coalition is wonderful. It's been, I think, a very fruitful relationship between Mia and BGR, and I can see that we will continue, yes, to go forward together and help many, many more people in the future. And yes, of course, the beautiful story of the Buddha in giving that very strong teaching, the very heartfelt teaching that we need to care for one another. That even a being who's completely relinquished all attachments and delusions knows that care for one another is something that we absolutely are responsible for doing. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you again, Raymond. So moving right along, so I'm aware that we've been sitting for an hour, so I just want to invite you to stretch or move or take a few breaths if that helps you. And we'll take just a moment to do that. And then I'm going to also take a moment while you're stretching and breathing to introduce our next presenter. So our next presenter is Tyler Hudachek from Action Against Hunger. So for over 40 years, across more than 50 countries, the nonprofit Action Against Hunger has been a leader in the global fight against hunger. And Tyler Hudachek is Partnerships Coordinator with Action Against Hunger, where she supports foundation and corporate partnerships. She was first introduced to the organization through Global Impact, serving as a strategic advisor for private institutional fundraising. Tyler began her career in development during her time as a Peace Corps volunteer in Uganda, where we also have some projects actually, where she worked with adolescent girls and women's groups to coordinate a sexual and reproductive health curriculum and make reusable menstrual pads. So a warm, warm welcome to you, Tyler. Thank you so much for coming to share about the work that you and Action Against Hunger are doing in the world.
And thank you for having me. So as you mentioned, my name is Tyler Hudachek. I serve as a partnerships coordinator with Action Against Hunger. I'm going to share my screen and share a little bit more about the work that we do, and specifically the work that is currently being supported by Buddhist Global Relief. All right. So Action Against Hunger is a global humanitarian and development nonprofit. We address both the causes and effects of hunger. We do this by building resilient communities through livelihood programming and providing services to children and families during and after crises. We have been fortunate to partner with Buddhist Global Relief since 2018, but want to share a little bit more about what we are doing currently with the support from you all. So starting in Tanzania, we've received support from Buddhist Global Relief since 2020. In Tanzania, nutrition remains one of the largest public health concerns for women and children. We've seen a lot of progress over the past 2 decades, but it's something that we're still well aware of and something that we are heavily focused on here in the country. Furthermore, climate change has severely threatened food security and livelihoods, and particularly for communities where we see 60% of livelihoods indirectly and indirectly dependent on agriculture. Some of these pictures you'll see here, we're working with women and children to address the underlying causes of malnutrition. We're doing this by strengthening climate-smart agriculture skills and practices for increased production of nutrient-rich crops and consumption through cooking demonstrations focusing on pregnant and lactating women, children aged 6 months to 5 years, and in school adolescents. So some of these photos you'll see in the upper left-hand corner is a woman working in her kitchen garden. And then also in the bottom central photo is a cooking demonstration supporting women and even some children too. And moving on in Somalia, the greater region, including Somalia, has been facing the region's worst drought in 40 years. The lack of rain exacerbated by climate change has caused extreme hunger, displacement, inequity throughout the country. Millions of people struggle daily to find the necessities like food and water and even other healthcare services. So as you can see here in the bottom left corner, this is measuring a child's arm for malnutrition. The mother was able to bring her child to the Nutrition Stabilization Center, where we did provide treatment for malnutrition and education around kind of at-home services. Additionally, we are also responding in Somalia through resiliency programming. So specifically, we are teaching men and women how to grow nutritious vegetables in their kitchen gardens. This includes supporting them through the development of solar-powered water sources to provide portable and safe drinking water, as well as irrigation to gardens for year-round cultivation. So in the bottom central and right photo, you'll see this is a cart attached to a donkey with solar panels on it. It's to help pump the water through the hose so that it can be used for consumption, but even for irrigating the gardens. And because of your support, Action Against Hunger has been respond to the needs for over 10,000 families in Somalia, as well as over 1,300 women in Tanzania. So I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to all of you. We're grateful for the work that you're doing and have been so fortunate to partner with Buddhist Global Relief since 2018. And it's been wonderful working together. So thank you all.
Thank you, Tyler. It's a great presentation. It really helps us see how well their gardens are doing and how much joy they put into that work, even in such a really crisis-filled situation. And I'm so glad that you and the rest of the organization are able to meet the need. I mean, just thinking about us, the worst drought in 40 years is surely causing a lot of stress and distress for folks. So thanks for sharing what you're doing there, and we're happy to be supporting and working together with you. Wonderful. So moving right along, we have some Dhamma sharing from the Venerables, Venerable Jin Chuan and Venerable Jin Wei, who are with us today. And just to say a bit about them, Bhikshu Jin Chuan, was born in New Jersey and grew up in the Bay Area. He was interested in monastic life from high school and moved to the city of 10,000 Buddhas in 2005. He currently serves as chaplain and assistant professor at Dharma Realm Buddhist University. Venerable Jin Chuan, you have to raise your hand so we know which one of you it is that we're talking about. Thank you. And Bhikshu Jin Wei was born in Poland and began his meditation practice in 1999. In 2013, he came to the city of 10,000 Buddhas to begin his monastic training. He's now involved with developing Redwood Vihara, a forest monastery in Boulder Creek, California. So warm welcome to you, Venerables. I also want to mention that Venerable Jin Chuan is on the board of Buddhist Global Relief as well, and one of our key folks. So good to see both of you, and please share some wisdom with us in Dhamma.
Well, it's definitely an honor to be here, and it's very inspiring to see all the projects that are happening. Jingwei just said, people are doing real stuff there. You see how 10,000 families being supported by the Action Against Hunger. I think this has been named, helping out with lots of different families. So what we wanted to share, we have a little presentation here. Let me see if I can get this to go. Okay. So the theme was creating a world that works for everyone. And so our first question was, we are creating a world every moment in our lives. And so our first question was kind of reflecting on ourselves, the me, our internal world. Oftentimes, our internal world comes from a place of lacking, like we don't have enough, or things aren't the right way. And so one question we often ask ourselves is, can we just accept ourselves as we are? Can we accept things as they are, as a kind of a ground for being able to see things clearly? And we often talk about loving kindness in the Buddhist tradition, metta or maitri. And we feel this is a really important foundation to start from, that the world that we're creating is coming from this place of loving kindness, not from a kind of idealization of how things are supposed to be or how I'm supposed to be. So that's the first kind of the me. And we move it to a we.
So this is an aspect how we can, this internal deep care can move into our relationships, our relational world. Can we relate from the wholeness for all of us? How can the world look like? And one of the aspects of loving kindness is loving friendliness. Can be a good friend for everyone, support the wholeness, support the freedom. So sometimes we say, this is not a codependency, but we'll walk together as friends and support each other's wholeness.
And the us, I think, really kind of taps into what Rick was talking about, this kind of collective consciousness of compassion. And we're now extending our hearts to all beings. Can we honor the kinship that we share with everyone? There is a kind of, you say, Buddhism has various ways of looking at the world, looking at cosmology. And there's a piece of it that I find very inspiring, that if we take this whole teaching on kind of multiple lives, that within the teaching that actually says all living beings have been our fathers, all living beings have been our mothers, our brothers, our sisters, our sons, our daughters. We're deeply interconnected. And so can we honor that, as you said, with this heart of care? And it's for all of our lineage that comes before us, our ancestors, and all that's to come to be, all the people after us, all the beings after us. And so for us, that care, that loving kindness can then be extended out to everyone in the world. And so given the theme that we just had for this particular session, creating a world that works for everyone, our sense is we can actually nurture that intention and that heart every single moment of our lives, as we're interacting with ourselves in meditation, as we're with our friends, our parents, our children, our families, with coworkers. We can bring that kind of awareness that every action we take has infinite ripples out into the universe. And so we like to say, we go from me to we to us. And so what we wanted to share was just a story of a man who was very inspiring for us, named Jayesh Patel in India, who we felt really embodied this kind of loving friendliness.
And at one point, he took us for a walk from Old City in Ahmedabad. And this walk was one of the most inspiring moments in my entire life. Because I see this compassion in action, very genuine connection from people to people. One point, one friend from Austria, he says, he's like Jesus Christ with the tears in his eyes.
Maybe just some context. So Jayesh Patel is actually takes care of the Gandhi ashram in India. And so here he's meditating and sitting in Gandhi's office where he received many dignitaries.
And send a praise. Mainly he pray in this room for the peace in the world. And the one short story, we were in the rickshaw. Those of you in India know the traffic law has a different, it's a different approach to traffic law. This is another, of course, for another time.
Yeah, there you go.
So we are driving with this very deep awareness what is behind and in front of us. And suddenly the rickshaw stopped and the traffic lights was the red one. And approached us one woman, I think in the early 30s, with this kind of traditional Indian clothing. She carried on her arm a kid. And you can look at in her eyes was a deep sadness. And what often happen in this kind of situations, the people around don't really often want to approach the beggar, so to speak. They close the windows or look away in different ways. Our friend Jayesh Bhai, what he did, immediately approached her, came out from the rickshaw, approached her directly, and looked in her eyes with this kind of deep friendliness. And she approached him with her hand, right? Asking about support. And he looked at her, he says, know this, know this. He says this, know this, know this, this, and give her hand. And it is amazing to see her face changed. And the smile appears. He approached him, he gave her a hug to the kid. And he took from his pocket a small candy. And he can start pretending this is a small airplane. It's like to the mouth of the small kid, maybe 2 years old. He took another one. And to her, she opened her mouth and received a gift from a stranger, Jayesh Bhai. And even he gave her maybe some money. And he returned to the rickshaw. It was maybe 45 seconds interaction, very, very short. And we were very impressed and mentioned to him, Jayesh Bhai, wow, what's happened here? You able to connect her so fast? And he says, well, but the most important things what happened here, all of these cars, the passengers saw what's happened here. Connection, openness, and kindness. And we say, wow, Jayesh Bhai play another game here. You know, he's approaching women, he's teaching us how to be really open and receiving others with the love, a kind of a deep friendliness, and also kind of try to introduce to others that this world has no barrier. We can really be a kinship for everyone.
Sometimes we say there's like PTSD, right? You can just have PTSD from seeing trauma, seeing violence. Similar, you can have the opposite, right? When you see real kindness, something opens in the heart. So what we thought of just doing at the very end here, so our time is not long, is we wanted to invite everyone. I don't know if can I share my screen? Is to, let me see if I can get my screen to work here. To write somebody that you care about or something you care about in the chat box. And we have a little short chant that we wanted to offer as a kind of a wish of well-being. We call it dedication of merit. So if people would like to, we invite you just to write, maybe you have a father who's sick.
Maybe yourself.
And maybe yourself, maybe a brother, maybe a son, maybe a friend.
Or a lovely cat or a puppy.
Or there's all these disasters right now in the world where there's wars happening, natural disasters and so forth. People are living beings suffering from hunger. So if you could please write it in the chat box, I'm not sure if it allows. Yeah, I can see it works. Please just type it in, and then we just do this chant together. I can get my computer to work. Let's see here. Okay, can you see the screen with the rickshaw still? Okay, I hope that works. I hope people see "May I be safe and protected" on the screen. Is that there? Yeah? Okay, good. Okay,
great.
So this is a chant by Eve Decker, and it goes from may I to may you to may we. So the me, we, and us. And the we at the end can be as expansive as our heart wants to be. It's not just here on the call, but all the wishes that you can see in the chat box and all the wishes that can just go out infinitely in our hearts. You know, that's kind of the intention here. And the lyrics more or less speak for themselves, but I really wanted to point to this last one, which is, may I take care of myself and live with well-being. Where you'll see at the very end is, may we take care of ourselves and live with well-being. And this is actually a teaching on equanimity. It's not that may I take care of you. It's that may I support your strength to take care of yourself. Like we saw in the presentation from Ayeshe about wanting to support women's education. or people really giving the skills for people to really take care of themselves. Right? It's not creating a dependency, it's really giving them the freedom to live their full lives. So invite you to sing along if you wish, wherever you are. Once you get the tune, it's very simple. But as we know in the practice of loving kindness, it's not so much in the words, it's in the heart.
In our deep intention of care.
Yeah. Okay.
May I be safe and protected from inner and outer harm. May I be truly happy and deeply peaceful. May I be healthy and strong and physically at ease. May I take care of myself and live with well-being. May you be safe and protected from inner and outer harm. May you be truly happy and deeply peaceful. May you be healthy and strong and physically at ease. May you take care of yourself and live with well-being. May we be safe and protected from inner and outer harm. May we be truly happy and deeply peaceful. May we be healthy and strong and physically at ease. May we take care of ourselves and live with well-being.
May it be so.
So,
Okay, it's back to you. Yeah, Tamadipa.
wishing well.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Well done. Thank you, both venerables, for asking the very personal, intimate questions, and bringing us right to the heart of the matter. Very, very wonderful sharing. And so now at this point, we're going to shift back to Aya Yeshe. We have one more video from her. And this is a video of Aya doing some of the chanting that we mentioned previously. So let's have a listen to Aya Yeshe.
Hi friends, I hope you're enjoying the interlude with the BGR fundraising event. I'd like to share some sacred chants with you. Drum your footsteps to the sacred mountain. Lay down on the bleeding earth and sigh. Breathe the rhythm of the mother sleeping. Listen to the dream she whispers, come alive. Tread gently on the earth. Breathe gently of the air. Lie gently on the water. Touch gently to the fire. You were born of her, she gave you being. She healed your body and brought your soul fire. As the mother wakes, we must awaken with her. She will fade away if we let her die. Tread gently on the earth. Breathe gently of the air. Lie gently in the water. Touch gently to the fire. Tread gently on the earth. Breathe gently of the air. Lie gently in the water. Stretch gently to the fire. Okay, so that's a song sung in drumming circles about the earth, which really needs our help right now. This is a song I wrote, the next one, inspired by the book That Bird Had My Wings by Jarvis J. Masters, who is a black man on death row, believed to be innocent of what he is accused of. He's a really inspiring writer who talks about finding hope in dark days. It's as high as the mountain, it flows through the valley. My loving kindness to give you relief. Love, 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 love. It has no religion, no caste or creed. It knows basically we're all part of the flow. A day is coming, all shall be well. We shall live in solidarity. Love, 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 compassion. It's as high as the mountain, it flows through the valley. My loving kindness to give you relief. Love, 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 compassion. Okay, so finally, it's probably nice if I share a Tibetan chant in praise of a female saint called Machig Laptron. Machig mala sol wada, Machig mala sol wada, Machig mala sol wada, Machig mala sol wada. Karpom gijin gilo, marpo gijin gilo, ngunpo gijin gilo, kusung tu gijin shenpo, mayum chengo pang topashok, Machig mala sol wade, umahung, 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 be, be, be. May you all be well and happy. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Wow, the power of her voice and the sincerity in her singing. It just comes right through. Wonderful. Beautiful. So at this moment, I am going to hand it off to George Clapp again to just speak a little bit more about how to support BGR.
Yes, thank you, Aya. Can you hear me? Good, good, thank you. We've seen the profound impact of BGR's efforts, particularly for marginalized women in need of nutrition and education. Every woman who is confident in her and her family's nutrition and who has acquired skills for a sustainable vocation becomes a beacon of change for her community. Your contribution makes it possible for BGR to help to ensure access to sustenance and to tools for self-empowerment for many people around the world. Thank you for joining us today, and please donate. We have a link to our donate page in the Zoom chat window. Thank you.
So true, George. Yes, thank you so much. And our next presentation is again some information from one of our partners. We're going to see a video from Anarba and Acharnyai of Dhammajarini Vittaya School. Dhammajarini Vittaya School, founded in 1990, is the first and only free Buddhist boarding school for underserved girls in Thailand, fully administered by Buddhist nuns. So first we'll hear from Anarba Supanidis, longtime board member and volunteer for DWS and vice president of Dhammajarini Vittaya Foundation under the royal patronage. Then later we'll hear from Buddhist nun Dr. Aonampai Pasakchai, who is the school's director since 1993, president of the Dhammajarini Vittaya Foundation, secretary of the Thai Nun Institute, and a licensed social worker, helping to prevent youth prostitution and drug abuse in Ratchaburi province. Dr. Pasakchai has received many recognitions, including the Outstanding Women in Buddhism Award at the inauguration of World Bhikkhuni Association and the International Women's Day Most Outstanding Women Award from the Thai Ministry of Culture, Religion, and Arts. So let's see the video from our partner.
Sawadika. Greetings from the Dhammajarini Vittaya School in Ratchaburi, Thailand. My name is Anapa Supanidit. I'm a board member and volunteer since 2008. It is a privilege to connect with all of you during this inspiring event. We now invite you to join us on a virtual tour of our school.
พ่อบอกว่าก็ตอนพ่อยังเด็กอยู่พ่อก็ไม่มีหนังสือไม่มีการเรียนไม่มีโรงเรียนแล้วอยากจะแบบอยากสบายก็ไม่สบายแล้วพอถึงรุ่นหนูมีทางครอบครัวก็ไม่มีเงินทำยังไงที่จะส่งลูกเรียน
Since 1990, the unique Dhammajarini Vittaya School has been changing the destinies of over 4,000 underserved and at-risk girls from all over Thailand by providing free, high-quality education. The school began with a small group of Buddhist nuns who recognized the urgent need to support girls' education in Thailand and constructed residential and classroom buildings for 20 orphan girls without access to education. Buddhist nun Dr. Anampai Pasakchai has been the school's director and champion since 1993.
95% ของเด็กหญิงเหล่านี้มาจากครอบครัวที่ยากจนกำพร้าเป็นเด็กชาวเขาและผู้ลี้ภัยรวมทั้งภูมิหลังอื่นๆที่มีความเสี่ยงการให้การศึกษาเป็นการพัฒนาชีวิตอย่างยั่งยืนดังนั้นการให้พลังแก่เด็กหญิงผ่านการจัดการศึกษาแบบองค์รวมและมีคุณภาพสูงทำให้พวกเขาสามารถทำลายวัฏจักรของความยากจนและประสบความสำเร็จในสิ่งที่เขาต้องการในชีวิตได้โรงเรียนธรรมจารินีไม่ใช่เป็นเฉพาะแค่โรงเรียนเท่านั้นแต่ยังเป็นบ้านที่สองที่อบอุ่นและปลอดภัยสำหรับเด็กผู้หญิงกว่า1,000 คนเราดูแลเป็นอย่างดีโดยมีอาหารที่เป็นประโยชน์ทั้ง3 มื้อและค่ารักษาพยาบาลรวมทั้งค่าใช้จ่ายที่จำเป็นทั้งหมด
จึงทำให้เด็กสามารถโฟกัสการเรียนได้อย่างดีและทำในสิ่งที่เขาสนใจได้อย่างมีความสุข
หนูเนี่ยรู้สึกว่ารักโรงเรียนมากค่ะรักโรงเรียนธรรมจารินีวิทยามากค่ะแล้วก็เพื่อนๆหรือว่าน้องๆหรือว่าพี่ๆนะคะก็เหมือนเปรียบเสมือนครอบครัวหนูหรือว่าคุณครูก็เปรียบเสมือนพ่อแม่คนหนึ่งของหนูค่ะแล้วก็โรงเรียนนี้เนี่ยเหมือนอยู่ในครอบครัวเหมือนอยู่ในบ้านของตัวเองค่ะ
This award-winning school provides holistic education that includes technology, robotics and STEM, athletics, vocational skills with organic gardening and the culinary arts, traditional Thai dance, music, the arts, and yoga and meditation, giving students not just knowledge and skills, but the confidence, resilience, and self-actualization to succeed in life. The school and Dr. Pasakchai have been the recipient of numerous recognitions, including from the Princess of Thailand. Dhammajarini graduates are coming back to help usher in the next generation of empowered women.
ยังมีเด็กผู้หญิงอีกมากในประเทศไทยที่ต้องการโอกาสทางการศึกษาและโรงเรียนธรรมจารินีวิทยาของเราไม่สามารถอยู่ต่อไปได้หากปราศจากผู้ใจบุญผู้บริจาคที่คอยให้การสนับสนุนโรงเรียนและเรายังต้องการผู้บริจาคอีกมากเพื่อที่โรงเรียนจะสามารถดำเนินอยู่ต่อไปได้และสามารถช่วยเหลือเด็กผู้หญิงได้มากขึ้นอย่างต่อเนื่องให้เด็กผู้หญิงได้มีอนาคตที่ดีตลอดไป
To learn more about Dhammajarini, please visit thaischool.org.
It is now my honor to introduce the school director since 1993, Buddhist nun and the president of Dhammajarini Vitaya Foundation, Dr. Mechi Anampai Park Sakchai.
นะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะในนามของคณะผู้บริหารคณะครูและนักเรียนโรงเรียนธรรมจารินีวิทยาขอขอบพระคุณท่านพระครูโพธิคุณคิมเบฮันคุณเฮราวีเฉินคุณชีอึ้งคุณแพทริเซียไพรส์คุณเจลซี่เบนจามินและคณะกรรมการมูลนิธิบุติโกลบอลวิวิสเป็นอย่างสูงรวมทั้งผู้บริจาคทุกท่านที่ได้เมตตาช่วยเหลือสนับสนุนโรงเรียนธรรมจารินีวิทยาการช่วยเหลือของท่านทำให้เราสามารถเติมเต็มความต้องการที่จำเป็นของเด็กๆให้มีชีวิตเจริญเติบโตที่ดีท่านได้ร่างกายและจิตใจได้รับประทานอาหารที่มีคุณภาพเพื่อเสริมสร้างและทำให้เด็กๆมีอนาคตที่สดใสเป็นทรัพยากรมนุษย์ที่ดีของโลกต่อไปคำสอนของพระพุทธเจ้าเกี่ยวกับความเมตตากรุณาเอื้อเฟื้อเผื่อแผ่ได้แสดงเห็นอย่างชัดเจนในการสนับสนุนของท่านที่มีต่อโรงเรียนของเราและทำให้เราได้รับแรงบันดาลใจเป็นอย่างยิ่งที่จะอุทิศตนเพื่อช่วยเหลือผู้อื่นที่ต้องการความช่วยเหลือต่อไปขออาราธนาคุณพระศรีรัตนตรัยขอให้บุญกุศลอันยิ่งใหญ่จงสำเร็จแก่ทุกๆท่านรวมทั้งมูลนิธิของท่านขอให้แบบอย่างที่ดีงามของท่านทั้งหลายนำทางไปสู่การกระทำที่ดีความมีเมตตาและความเอื้อเฟื้อเผื่อแผ่ในโลกของเราต่อไปขออนุโมทนาขอบคุณค่ะ
To close our presentation, we wanted to offer a selection of our students performing the Buddhist recitation. We deeply thank all the Global Buddhist Relief, leadership, staff, and donors for your generous support of our school. ขอบพระคุณค่ะ
พุทธังภคววันตังอภิวา
Yes, what an uplifting, incredible sharing that is. She says, the Venerable Nun says that we're inspiring them and they are certainly inspiring us. It's a very virtuous circle there. You can just see how well the girls are doing and what incredible offering, everything from meditation to science to the food and well-being and all of the teaching, secular and Buddhist. So wonderful, wonderful. Feeling lots of mudita for them right now. And great. So we've already spoken with George, so we will just go ahead and move right on to introducing our next presenter, Roshi Joan Hobrix, who is with us here today. Roshi Joan, so good to see you. Let me just say a few words about you, even though you're quite the familiar face to many of our longtime BGR friends. Roshi Joan Hobrix. Joan Hogetsu Hobrix Roshi is a teacher in the White Plum lineage and abbot of Heart Circle Zen in Hackensack, New Jersey. She's also a psychotherapist in private practice and has published chapters and articles on Zen practice and psychotherapy in numerous publications. In 2004, she initiated a project to bring psychological and spiritual relief to people in Sri Lanka after the terrible tsunami in Southeast Asia. She's also been involved in prison ministry and for many years served on the board of Sanar, an agency engaged in services to women who were formerly commercial sex workers. She's been teaching healthy boundaries for Buddhist leaders since the online course was initiated in 2017 and recently relocated from Ridgewood, New Jersey to Tiburon, California. So warm welcome, Roshi Joan. Good to see you. Please share your wisdom with us.
Thank you, Aya Dhammadippa. It's good to see you too. So, how can we create a world that works for everyone? A formidable question. Right now, the world is not working for millions of people, and it seems as if it's one terrible tragedy after another. Keeping a sane and stable mind is a challenge. Yet as Buddhists, this is our responsibility. When we take the precepts, we vow to live responsible lives. When we take the Bodhisattva vows, we vow to save all beings. So how exactly can we manifest that in our lives when the world seems to be in such dire straits? How can we hold on to our own sanity and our own stability? If we can hold on, we can trust ourselves to do what must be done, to respond to what is right in front of us. We can trust that we will know what to do when confronted by a situation that requires compassionate action. We can trust that we will act from a wise and compassionate mind. Practicing with the 4 immeasurables, which we've had many references to already today, which are all forms of love, allows us to maintain a balanced mind that responds with wisdom and compassion. The real purpose of meditation is to free ourselves from the defilements of our mind. Such defilements include fear, delusion, desire, anger, hatred, and ignorance. Practicing the 4 immeasurables over time can clear away these defilements, leaving us with a clear and loving mind. So let's start with a meditation on the 4 immeasurables. I didn't prepare a screen, so I'll have to do this and hope you'll follow along with me. May all beings have happiness and the cause of happiness, which is love. May all beings be free of suffering and the cause of suffering, which is self-clinging. May all beings never be separated from joy. May all beings dwell in equanimity. So the four immeasurables are all aspects of love. So how do we practice with them and how do we understand them? When we're all loving, we're not separated from one another. We're all interconnected. The first is loving kindness, or metta, or maitri. This is the love we can feel for all beings, and it includes all living beings. We practice with metta by paying attention to how we treat all beings. Can we carry a spider down 3 flights of stairs to put it outside instead of flushing it down the toilet? That's metta practice. We experience our connection to all beings. Can we practice this for the Russians, for the Ukrainians, the Iranians, the Israelis, the Palestinians, Hamas, Chinese? Feeling our connection to them and their right to live and be on this earth too is metta practice. Living from our connection to all beings inspires us to do what we can to help create a world that works for everyone. We simply know what we must do. The second immeasurable is compassion. We've seen so many examples of that today, so many inspiring examples. This is the capacity to understand the suffering of others. When we practice this form of love, our fear disappears. When we feel compassion for another person, we cannot hate them, and we are instead moved to help them. And in helping them, we help all beings. We can practice compassion towards people commonly considered evil, such as Putin, for example. Imagine how afraid he must be at his core to need so much power. Imagine how lonely he must be not to trust anyone, even his closest advisors, knowing they can turn on him in a moment. Who would want to live like that? Holding these thoughts, we can find compassion for him. Practicing compassion for all beings transforms us, and as we are transformed into loving beings, we are inspired to help. We are inspired to help create a world that works for everyone. The third immeasurable is called sympathetic joy. Joy that is shared with others. To share in another's joy, we must let go of the defilements like jealousy, envy, competitiveness, resentment, hatred. These feelings make us all very unhappy. It's very self-involved and very self-clinging. So we must examine the feelings very objectively, not denying them or trying to get rid of them, but by bringing compassion to the self, who is so gripped by these emotions. Bringing compassion and love to the self loosens the grip of these emotions. Practicing sympathetic joy for all beings transforms us, and as we are transformed into loving beings, we are inspired to create a world that works for everyone. The fourth immeasurable is called equanimity, which is love that is non-discriminating. You love all beings equally. This is regarded as the highest form of love. You love simply because that being needs your love. Imagine loving something or someone you are deathly afraid of. Take a moment to put yourself in that fear. Can you imagine being a hostage of Hamas? Can you feel compassion for your captors? They must be afraid too. Can you feel compassion? Imagine being a Gazan living with the daily fear of bombs coming one after another all day long. And can you feel compassion for the Israelis dropping those bombs? How much better to feel compassion than hate? Practicing loving all things without discrimination transforms us. And as we are transformed into loving beings, we are inspired to help create a world that works for everyone. These four immeasurables are limitless. We human beings can never reach the limit of our ability to love. Practicing with such infinite love unlocks our hearts, and we are inspired to create a world that works for everyone. With this inspiration, we respond to whatever arises with love, and we act to help create a world that works for everyone. We've seen such wonderful examples of that today. Such loving examples of the partners of BGR and the staff of BGR and the board of BGR as well. And thank you to all of our donors who make this possible. So let's close with the meditation we started with. If you remember it, please join me, or if you know it, please join me. May all beings have happiness and the cause of happiness, which is love. May all beings be free of suffering and the cause of suffering, which is self-clinging. May all beings never be separated from joy. May all beings dwell in equanimity. Thank you, all of you, for your love, your generosity, and your support of Buddhist Global Relief.
Thank you so much, Rishi. That's wonderful sharing, really bringing us to the what's happening in the present and really how to hold that in a skillful way. I really appreciate that beautiful encouragement of the heart. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So we have one more partner that we're going to hear from, and that is Better Burma. We have with us today Joa McGee, and we're going to hear a presentation. Okay. We're going to hear a presentation from Joa, but first I want to introduce him. Joa McGee first visited Burma in 2003, going as a Vipassana meditator in the tradition of Goenka. He returned in 2007, where he worked as a teacher, trainer, and led courses through the U.S. Embassy at the American Center. In 2010, he left the profession to spend time meditating and also began to explore the different monastic traditions of Myanmar. He helped to create a meditator's guidebook of the country, which includes extensive sections on the principal figures and sites within the Goenka tradition. In 2019, Joa launched the Insight Myanmar podcast to further explore meditation in Burmese Buddhism. Then following the 2021 military coup, he founded Better Burma, a nonprofit mission supporting Myanmar's vulnerable communities while also transforming the podcast to become a platform for a wide array of voices to tell their stories about what is happening in Burma. So let's turn it over to Joa.
Dear Aya, is it okay we ask Joa to please raise his hand so we can spot him in the crowd, please?
Oh, yes, Joa, we need to find you so that we can spotlight your video feed and for everyone to see. Can you wave at us? Let's see if we see Joa. Oh, there he is with a J, just J on the list there. Here, I can go ahead and spotlight. 1 second. Okay, there we go. So Joa, please go ahead and share with us about Better Burma and
Okay.
your activities.
Yeah, I think my sound is on. So, so thank you very much for welcoming me here and getting a chance to talk. And thank you also for the great, generous support of Buddhist Global Relief. I'll preface what I'm saying with the projects they've allowed us to carry out after the 2021 military coup, which is now going into its third year of resistance to the military, and the country is continuing to suffer in all kinds of ways as ongoing conflict worsens, even though it's mainly off the headlines and not something you read about very much. It's something that for those living through it is just getting worse by the month. And I've just so tremendously appreciated Buddhist Global Relief's faith and trust in our mission and the work that we're carrying out. And largely through their support, we have been able to serve monks and nuns that are not getting sufficient food supplies because the country has suffered so much conflict and the economy has basically been destroyed. There have been many monasteries and nunneries and towns that have not been able to receive proper food for their monks and nuns. And as people here would know, especially from such a deeply devout Buddhist country like Burma, where it's there's so much pride as well as good merit associated with being able to care for with food supplies and medicine and other things that are needed for the monastic communities, that there is for the first time really in decades, if not centuries, there are many monasteries and nunneries that are going without proper support from the lay communities, simply because everything there has crashed or is crashing. And so the support that BGR has been able to provide, that we've then given to our local team to be able to share to those monks and nuns, has been so deeply appreciated. It's been like as we get the updates on the donation reports, it's been described as something like a gift from the heavens that was never expected. That Myanmar being so off the main headlines of what's going on in the world today, the fact that there are benefactors and donors that are supporting them from overseas that they don't know, that they've never met, and that they've never reached out to, is something that that in every report we receive, just the hearts that are warmed by knowing that they're not forgotten and knowing that they're being cared for, and not just being cared for, but that their monastic population is being cared for, that their monks and nuns and monastic schools that are not having proper food and support, that they're able to get this from overseas. I also want to highlight just how tragically unique Myanmar is right now in terms of the delivery of aid itself, where even the being able to collect food supplies, rice and onions and cooking oil and other things, is a great risk to those that are carrying out that mission, because the military regime is still trying to control the entire country and trying to prevent any aid from reaching its people. And so the process of delivering aid to Myanmar is fraught with many difficulties. There are reports of people that I should say every stage of the transaction, from receiving the donation funds to then going to a market to buy the supplies that are needed, to then driving the truck on the road with those food supplies, to delivering them at the monastery. All of those instances are fraught with danger, and danger of not just confiscation, but danger of arrest, and even worse, because the regime has been trying to cut off all aid and support in its attempt to control the country. And so BGR has been very, very patient and very and very wonderful in working with us to understand the unusual risks that our team has gone through in having to acquire the funds in a safe way, purchase the supplies in a safe way, transport them in a safe way, and then deliver them every step of the process, which can take a very long time for safety concerns. And tragically, sometimes that safety is something that, even with all these precautions, can't be guaranteed. There are members of the team that have carried out these donations, that have found themselves or their families imprisoned, and at times even a loss of life from not directly related to our missions, but other members that have local members that have helped facilitate our donations have faced some of those consequences carrying out other donation projects. And so it's very tragic what's happening there. As mentioned in the introduction, the podcast platform that I have, Insight Myanmar, this was first started as a project to want to share about meditation and Buddhism and stories relating from meditators, monks, nuns. And after the coup, it transformed to look at not just the intersection of Buddhism and meditation with the more worldly society, but also looking at what's happening in Myanmar, given that it's so underreported and is constantly overshadowed by other events happening. I should mention that 3 of the people who've spoken today have been guests on our platform. Ayayeshi, Bhikkhu Bodhi, and Rick Hansen have all graced us with their presence and given us really wonderful interviews, looking at this intersection between Buddhism and its engagement in the real world, and have been some wonderful and insightful episodes that have been able to look at that and to share it and to bring this reality, both the reality of what's happening in Myanmar to the outer world, as well as to try to understand through a Buddhist lens or a meditative perspective in the real tragedy and carnage of what is going on there now. So I just really want to thank everyone who has supported BGR and BGR themselves for believing in us and supporting our mission through these very hard times, and in a country that's very unstable, where there are very good people that are trying to stand for many of the ideals that we hold dear, and doing so with the highest stakes possible: gender equality, human rights, democracy, free and equitable society for all, that are taking the greatest risks unimaginable to me, even having lived in Myanmar for 15 years and been involved with it intensively for the last 3 years after the coup. It's the facing darkness sometimes brings it can bring out the shadows, but it can also bring out the light, and it can bring out beautiful qualities. And that's certainly been the case in terms of what I've seen from our brothers and sisters in Myanmar that are continuing to hold the ideals and the wisdoms and the insights that we see arising through a meditation practice, but are holding on to those and practicing those in times that are unimaginably harder than anything that most of us can contemplate, in these times of conflict and danger and risk. And to be able to support them both by bringing their voices on our podcast for others to hear and to learn and grow in their journey, as well as in a humanitarian sense, to be able to bring supplies and support for them as their authorities are not just neglecting them, but are actually actively trying to prevent them and punish them for being able to help each other. This is the other side of this tragedy is a real inspiration that in seeing this side of humanity come about, and BGR has been a partner in supporting and fueling that humanity. And so I'm very honored and very humbled to be able to speak here to this group and to share a little about ourselves and our group and what we're doing, as well as to just encourage all of us to keep a candle for Myanmar. Just because things are not being reported doesn't mean that things are not happening. And I think for many of us, Burma is probably a special place in the background of meditation traditions and teachers and wisdom that have emanated from there. That I think for some of those of us on this call, there is a certain kind of gratitude or connection that we might have through whatever our practice is and what Burma has offered at some point. And so I thank you for giving me the chance to speak on this and to bring it to our attention, and to just as in some of the beautiful sharings that happened before my talk, as we have metta for everyone the world over, certainly in conflict and suffering wherever it exists, to also extend that to Myanmar, and in maybe a special way, in the sense of the gratitude that some of us might have for some of the practices and teachings and lineages and traditions that have come out. So thank you very much for allowing me to talk.
Thank you, Joel. Wow, bringing the reality of such a tragic situation and the danger that people are facing is really important. It's important for us to hear very clearly that that's happening. I really, really deeply appreciate all you're doing to keep the folks there safe as best you can, and we will hold them in our chants and hope that they continue to benefit from the incredibly compassionate and courageous acts that they're doing just by trying to help one another. So, and all that you do to facilitate that as well. I think we feel very much aligned with supporting, particularly in the midst of such violence and oppression as is happening in Burma. And, just as you said, such a wonderful source of wisdom in the world as well. So, even more tragic for that reason. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for the work you're doing there and for coming and speaking to us today that, yes, we in fact have not forgotten them. I'm glad to hear that their hearts are warmed by what we can do to support, to bring resources. So with that, we have arrived nearly at the end of our program here, and because we're running a little bit behind, then I think what I'm going to do is, Bhante, Bodhi, if you would please go ahead and just lead us to the end of our event here. I think that will be the perfect closure. So again, please share your wisdom and your practice with us, and we will be grateful for that.
Okay, so first I want to thank all of the speakers who have joined us today, this afternoon. Is my voice coming through okay?
Yes,
okay.
Bhante, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, so Buddhist Global Relief actually grew out of an essay that I wrote for the Buddhist journal called Buddha Dhamma back in 2007. And I ended that essay with the words, I will read the words of that essay. I said, a special challenge facing Buddhism today is to stand up as an advocate for justice in the world, a voice of conscience for the victims of social, economic, and political injustice who cannot stand up and speak for themselves. This is a deeply moral challenge, marking a watershed in the modern expression of Buddhism. And I believe it also points in the direction that Buddhism should take if it's to share in the Buddha's ongoing mission to humanity. And so I speak of this as a moral challenge. And what is the way that we meet that moral challenge? And I want to develop this theme briefly in terms of certain steps in addressing that challenge. And the first I say is a moral vision, which means an intuition into the fundamental moral basis for the types of conscientious action that we need in addressing these vast problems that are facing humankind today, the problems that we have to solve, at least to advance in creating a world that will work for everyone. And the fundamental moral intuition, I say, is the recognition that every human life matters, that every human person has intrinsic dignity and an inviolable value. And I say that every life matters because every person is a center of subjective experience. Now, the way our minds work when we look at other people, we see them through our vision as bodies or as objects. And we sort of have to relate to them indirectly through this objective encounter. But when I engage in a certain reflection, I can realize that every person is a center of subjective experience, which means that every person is looking out at the world from an inner perspective in which they have certain fundamental basic drives. They want to live, not to die prematurely. They want to be happy, not to suffer. They want to live a fulfilling life, not a life of constant struggle, disappointment, and oppression. So the Metta Sutta tells us that we should develop an immeasurable mind, a mind that can embrace all living beings. And if we do this, if we let our minds expand, then we will see the world not as just a mass population of people objectively, but we will see the world as a community of subjects, of people who are not just nameless faces, but subjects like ourselves, centers of experience, beings who can experience joy and sorrow, who love and are loved by others. And this will awaken a sense of solidarity, the sense that I am exactly like others, that others are exactly like myself. And so just as I want to live, not to die, everyone else wishes to live and not to die. Everyone wishes to flourish and fulfill their own inner potentials. Based on that intuition, that fundamental moral intuition, that should be the spur that moves us to action. We have to take action to fulfill the wish of those who are aspiring to live fully meaningful lives, but who are obstructed by systems of domination, by systems of oppression, by poverty, by autocratic forms of government, by war, violence, climate disasters, whatever. And so once we recognize the fundamental urge of all people to live full and meaningful lives, then we are spurred to stand up against those policies, programs, social forces, political institutions that deprive people of the rights they wish for, that remove their security, that imperil their lives and obstruct their urge to fulfillment. And so this commitment to justice inspires a willingness to act, to remove the obstacles to justice, and to give others the opportunity to live full and meaningful lives. And so once we see into what I call the world as a community of subjects, then we feel the ethical imperative to act so that the good might prevail, so that in the long run and in the deepest sense, all people might emerge from all of the obstructive conditions like poverty, injustice, political oppression, and fulfill their aspirations for a meaningful and fulfilling life. Okay, in attempting to transform this moral vision into reality, we need two primary factors working together. One is justice, the urge towards justice, the urge to see that all people deserve and merit the conditions they need to lead these fulfilling lives. And so we have to be willing to stand up against injustice and to open the paths to justice. But the other quality we need is what I would call love, not merely loving kindness in the traditional way of sitting quietly and radiating good thoughts, but making a commitment to act in ways based on the perception that all people might have been, if we take the Buddhist standpoint, that they could have been our mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, sons, and daughters in previous lives. And even if we don't take that literally, but we should just entertain it as a kind of imaginative perspective from which we can look upon other people, seeing all elders as our potential parents, all youngsters as being our potential children, all roughly in the same age range as being our brothers and sisters. And when we do this, that will arouse from the heart a quality of identification with others, solidarity with others, and a conscientious commitment to act in ways that will enable others to overcome the barriers they face and to reach the fulfillment of their aspirations and whatever those aspirations might be, as long as they do not inflict harm on others. So when we combine this urge for justice with this boundless commitment to love for all beings, this is what I call conscientious compassion, a compassion that swells up from the heart as a deep identification with others who are facing suffering, but a compassion that doesn't just remain passive as from the standpoint of an observer, but a compassion that then generates a conscientious urge to take action to alleviate the suffering of others and create the conditions for them to live fulfilling lives. And that has been the underlying philosophy of Buddhist Global Relief, which has been exemplified today by some of the projects that we've been sponsoring together with our wonderful partners. Okay, so that will do for my short presentation. And now I think we can bring the program to an end with, I think, Aya Dhammadeepa. Maybe you could just lead a very short loving kindness meditation. Just the 2 minutes should be enough.
Yes, yes. All right. Thank you so much, Bhante. So for the loving kindness meditation today, what I would like to do is just begin by having you lower your eyes. If you can close them, that's great. Or if you're looking at closed caption, then you can leave them open enough for that. And just turn the attention to an image that reminds you of kindness. Ideally, something very simple. We've seen many today, handing someone a bag of rice, or a child playing, or a hug. Just any simple moment of kindness. Bringing that to mind. Reminding yourself that you know kindness in your life. There is kindness in your experience. And then you can either aloud with your mic muted or in your mind, you can say that word, kindness. And imagine the sound of kindness filling your whole body. Ah, kindness. And then saying the word one more time and allowing the sound of kindness to flow even beyond your body, as far as possible, all around you. Sound of kindness. Filling your mind. Filling all being. Thank you. That is our meditation for today. You can slowly open your eyes and come back to the group. And Bhante, once again, for you, please, if you would share the closing with us, the closing blessings.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to close with the sharing of the merits. So we say in traditional Buddhism, we say that when we perform any kind of wholesome action, we generate a kind of wholesome potency within the mind, which we call merit. And we don't want to hold these merits to ourselves as though they're accumulated, accumulation of like a bank account, but we want to share these merits with others to spread them out upon the world. And so we're going to collect our minds and think of all of the wholesome karma that we have accumulated through supporting the work, the compassionate work of Buddhist Global Relief, or even just witnessing the program today and rejoicing in the good deeds of others. And then we're going to send this wholesome energy out upon the world with the wish that all of the suffering, the conflicts, the pain of people around the world will be dissolved, swept away, and vanish and replaced by happiness, peace, fulfillment, and a sense of universal brotherhood and sisterhood. And as you're doing this, I'm going to recite some verses in the Pali language, the ancient Buddhist language, for sharing the merits with the devas. These are the Dharma protecting deities, the nagas or dragon spirits, and then with all beings. Akasata chabumata deva naga mahidika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakantu sasanang. Akasata chabumata deva naga mahidika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakantu desanang. Akasata jabumata deva naga mahidika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakantu mang parang. Dukha pata jani dukha bhaya pata jani bhaya soka pata jani soka antu sabepi panino. May those in suffering be free from suffering. May those in fear be free from fear. May those in sorrow be free from sorrow. May all living beings also be thus. So again, once again, I thank everybody who joined us today, and especially to the speakers and the representatives from our projects, our project partners.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah.
Thank you, Venerables and staff and everyone who supported.
I also have to give like special word of thanks to, she's been hiding behind the scenes, but this is Kim Bayan, who is the executive director of Buddhist Global Relief. There she is, there she is. It was really the live wire who keeps the energy of Buddhist Global Relief flowing for many, many years.
Wonderful. Goodbye, everyone.